Hello everybody, it's February 19th, 2026. I hope everybody's doing well and welcome back to my channel. I'm going to continue reading on the Targeted Individual Handbook by Loki Hulgaard on street theater. And this gorgeous mini original oil painting is by Claudio, and it actually looks like zoomy. Like I purchased it, let's see, this does he have a date on? He doesn't have a date on it. He named it Tabby, but I have this a couple of years. I mean, who knew that I would eventually have a cat that looked just like this? So here we go. Street theater. It takes place around your neighborhood. These are recruits who have been illegally given your home address and or is a recruited person from within a geographical neighborhood who are asked to show up around the target's private residence at all hours of the day or night, in particular if the target is home. And I'm recording this pretty early in the morning. I don't usually, but because I was knocked out while I was resting in bed listening to somebody's live stream, I'm still awake. And I won't be going to sleep. I'll be taking a shower after this, but I just wanted to let you know that around 5 a.m., actually it was before 5 a.m., somebody zoomed by on the county road in this dark, desolate county road. And by the way, we only have less than 800 people living in this town. So what's the likelihood of somebody be driving by at that hour? Street theater can either be in a group formation, using a number of people who will show up near your residence, start making noise, having loud conversations, and generally the conversations they're having will be specific to the target. I mean, that is if you can hear them. A lot of times when they do that around here, they are yelling. They have to yell, otherwise I won't hear them. There will also be solo individuals who walk dogs or babies. Most of the time, the perps will be on a cell phone, directing their conversation using keywords that are personal to the target. And by the way, when I'm reading this, there are a lot of typographical errors in this. I wish somebody would have proofread this, but anyway. Another form of street theater is the use of public service and or utilities, whereby you will see an influx of telecommunication or utility vans around the neighborhood. In addition to the use of streets and transportation, whereby there always seems to be road work taking place so that the targeted individual is directed into another area. And that actually happened to me. I guess there was not really a close neighbor, but somebody that I met who were allegedly turning into a friendship. And I was at their house on Thanksgiving, and I was completely redirected on the way home. Obviously, it was an Eastern Star woman and the Freemasonic cult members that redirected me around the town. I guess they had broken into my house, and they needed to redirect me for that reason so that they could escape without my seeing anybody driving down the county road near my house. In addition to the use of streets and transportation, there always seems to be road work taking place so that the target individual is directed into another area. Generally, if they're trying to set the target up to appear dangerous to children, like some type of pedo, or dangerous to some type of official, they will direct all of their so-called street traffic to pass by an area like schools or where children are. In addition to buildings or residences of officials or leaders within the community organizations, to give the false impression that the target is stalking these people or areas. Well, since I haven't left my compounds here in more than a year, I guess they really can't say that. This is deployed so as to further victimize the target by way of setups and entrapment. And I've actually never driven past. I don't even know where some of my neighbors live, actually. So they want to do this by setup or entrapment. The targeted individual innocently follows the directional signs, generally not realizing that there is another recruit taking photos or a video at the very moment the target shows up. This gives the architects, and by the way, the architects, if you didn't listen to the last video of my reading this targeted individual handbook, the architects are the Freemasons. Okay, the Freemasons work for the deletes, and that's what they are. They're the people, the real controllers, right? The architects of deception are the Freemasonic cult members. This gives the architects a video or photo showing the target in some designated setup area so that it can be used in their fear-mongering recruitment process. Another type of street theater will be used in the forms of young recruits who will come around the target so that photos or videos can be taken to once again give the false impression that the target was doing something nefarious. These young recruits are on a mission of destruction and will be told to deploy these underhanded tactics so that another recruit can capture a specific event to make the target look bad. For example, a young female or male recruit will be told to go up to the older male or female target and begin a conversation or place themselves in a compromising position so that the male or female target can be photographed or videotaped with the target, giving the false impression that it was the targeted individual who initiated the act. The absurdity of the gang-stalking protocol, proving it to be fourth-generational warfare, can be seen in the following quote. To break this down for anyone who has half a brain and the ability to think for themselves, if the target were that horrible a person or had committed such crimes, the architects behind the covert stages of profiling and warrantless stalking and surveillance would have in their covert stages, they would have actually had material evidence, right? They wouldn't have to be doing this for 5, 10, 15 years, right? So if they were covertly surveilling you, which they do to all targeted people, they're profiling you, they want to find out who your friendships are, whatever, they would have had all the evidence needed at that time, because that doesn't happen overnight. They're doing that over months and years before you actually are aware of it. So this is a fact. They would have had in their covert stages all the evidence to convict you of a crime, but there is no crime. They're making stuff up as they go. So as you shop, you will begin to notice that a retail store begins to have an influx of people showing up who appear to recognize who you are, but who are total strangers to you. Be on the lookout for some of the terrorist psychological tactics these citizen snitches, the rat snitches, will deploy in public settings. They'll stare at you, point, whisper, and giggle as you walk past them, like they're middle school brats. Have directed conversations either with a person they're with in a group or on a cell phone, and they use keywords as they pass. They want to let you know that they are citizen snitches for the state. Rat snitches. It's psychological pain. It's bullying at work. Friends and family suddenly lost leading. Now this is, guys, if you're going to write a book, please proofread it. This is exactly what it says. Bullying at work, friends and family suddenly lost, leading to isolation. Okay. Bullying in general. Because of what appears as social problems with other people, the targeted individual moves to a place where the attackers and the manipulators can spread around any kind of rumor for people in the neighborhood and can take control in another way. And that's why I don't recommend you're moving to remote rural communities, because they're nutso here. They're total nuts. Sometimes you feel like a nut, and most of the time I don't. If you remember that commercial from back in the day. Let's see. Bullying in general, because of what appears as social problems with other people, the targeted individual, moves to a place where the attackers and the manipulators can spread around. And I want to add here that if you're buying and selling property, a lot of times, whatever houses that you were looking at that you really wanted to move to, they will suddenly block your access to them. They'll suddenly become off market. They'll suddenly be sold, like it's a false sale, and then it will be back on the market because they just set up a false sale for that unfortunate seller, to maneuver you like they did with me to purchase this property. I absolutely believe that. Gang stalking, rude people in crowds that appear and insult the individual using verbal and nonverbal communication. It's like having 20 people or more strategically placed to, for example, look with a hateful look at the targeted individual. They're all strangers, but they're all rude. They appear every time the TA is outside, and it can take many different expressions. Sometimes it looks like they're having some kind of a scheme, and the harassment follows a pattern. And when it's achieved at a certain stage, they rest themselves and start it all over again. Street theater. It's a group of people play at a whole show for the individual, and they're just bad actors. And it appears to follow a predetermined plot. Following the targeted individual's thinking, the thought surveillance is perceived as humiliating. The home is entered and the perpetrators don't steal. Yeah, but this is not true. So this person is spreading a little misinformation here. The home is entered and the perpetrators don't steal things, but they can destroy them, or they can leave objects that don't belong there. They often seem to enter with a key because the doors are not forced. Thefts in town, airports, money of belongings, destroying means of transportation, either your car or your bike. That's false. They actually do steal. They have stolen close to $8,000 of items inside of my house in 2024. I haven't finished my list for 2025 yet, and then I've got to start on 2026. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to show you some photos. They also use color to terrorize a target. They want to let you know about the civilian collaborative efforts taking place upon and against the human lives as a sign call to let other indoctrinated and brainwashed cult members for the state and corporate-sponsored domestic terrorist organizations know that they're working as a team to destroy the human life of a solo targeted individual. So it takes 20, 30, 50, 100 people to target one person. Imagine if it were a level playing field, 1 against 1. Who do you think would win, guys? 1-on-1. Then there's a total lack of support. When the targeted individual meets health professionals, they're not interested in what the TI tells them. Symptoms are treated in the old-fashioned way. Many times TIs are forced to take the wrong medication or agree to sometimes stigmatizing labels in order to receive their pensions. In certain countries, the TI can be forced into psychiatry where there's a total loss of human rights. Blacklisting often leads to the inability for the TI to find work, or has to accept a job way under their specialization, and at the new job, the TI is constantly under harassment and is bullied. The police participate in the harassment and is totally insensitive to what the TI goes through, and the media ignores the TI cause. And then, of course, there's cyber stalking. The same goes for other units within. They're also recruited. They're given access to cyber capabilities in order to, without a warrant, illegally monitor what the target may be doing within the privacy of their home via cable, internet, or telecommunications, or your YouTube or Facebook page. And I've mentioned multiple times that the Bow Wow family, they just can't get enough of me. They stalk me on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and then when she gets banned, then she signs up her son or other family members or other flying monkey friends. They're absolutely obsessed. And then, of course, there are the cyber stalkers that are employed by your perpetrators. They are usually on a higher level. They're employed by Homeland Security, fusion centers, private security firms. My favorite Bureau of Investigation, right? And these are the well-known cyberstalkers in the community. You know them all. Like the gorilla creature. I'll just leave it at that. And then there's a woman also. There are a couple of them. There was one that actually created an entire YouTube channel about me. Just the way they did to Michaela Raines, the founder of Save a Fox, who's no longer with us. 30-year-old, gorgeous, sweet woman. All she wanted to do was save animals. And she was tortured through a subreddit group, a snark group. Well, I'm looking so forward to the outcome of the lawsuit against the creator of that subreddit. I'll say it again. I hope that the information becomes available to the public also. And Reddit finally did take down that group. So cyber stalking. They will also be cued with keywords to use when the target is within hearing distance so that they can repeat what the target may have been going through in the privacy of their home. So they include what they were watching on TV, on websites, what they were viewing, what they're reading, and then they mimic the show, the website, the chapter of the book. And they wanted to get back to the target to let them know or give them the impression that they are monitoring every move the target makes. And then the setups. You will find being the victim of organized terrorist stalking. The perpetrators of all crimes being committed against you as a targeted individual are in many cases the same people who will then turn around in a reverse projection and they pretend to be the victims of the insidious violence a targeted individual is being forced to endure. And they'll spread this on the internet also. They'll spread it, in their own channels. They'll create live streams and then hide the live streams so that you can't see them again. So the truth is, these are well-organized double-speak tactics that are used to further victimize the targeted individual. These so-called perp victims are simply actors. They're used to further set up and destroy the target in order to meet their final objectives. Death. The gang-stalking program can be described as a long-term and slow death with a constant life event of a psychological and physical attack and torture. And this is for educational purposes only. I'm reading the Targeted Individual Handbook written by Loki, Hulgaard. You can locate this on z-lib.org. It's a PDF. It's, it's 90 pages. During any of the 5 levels of the gang stalking, agents have it within their power to take the targeted individual out and mark the target for death. And no one will be wiser than the person was actually murdered by the secret push of a button. And by I don't consent. And ChatGPT says I'm supposed to be living into my mid-90s just like my grandma. So some of the stages of gang stalking they're claiming here. Now I don't know, I can't validate this information. I haven't seen it in a lot of places. But it always seems to differ wherever I read it. So the first 4 levels of the gang stalking program are specifically designed to target as follows. 1. Level 1 mainly targets the ignorant. Level 2 mainly targets the mind. Level 3 mainly targets the heart. And level 4 mainly targets the body. When you're being gang stalked and ignorant, at this level, the targeted individual's ignorance of the fact that he or she is a targeted individual because the gang stalkers are more covert in their tactics. This is a period of time when the gang stalkers watch the TI and spend time gathering background information such as habits, health, sexual orientation, illegal activity, and people and places the targeted individual likes to visit. Is that nutso? How is this? And Karen Stewart mentioned this multiple times, and even in an article that she wrote in the Activist Post. How is this surveillance? It's not just surveillance. It's setting a targeted person up through the psychological operation to destroy them. in a revenge for hire program, and to line the pockets of multiple individuals, and to take out all the good people, all the thinkers, all the creative people, the people that don't go along to get along. Where would this world be without people who can think for themselves? Would we have the telephone? Would we have the internet? Would we have medicine? Would we have all the things that we have today if it were not for the creative thought process? So what's going to happen when we're all gone and all the losers are stuck with themselves? Could you imagine? Could you even imagine? But anyway, so what happens is the targeted. I believe that most of the people on Earth are at this first level, the ignorant stage. They're ignorant that there is a gang-stalking program that exists, just as targeted individuals were once ignorant of it before they became targeted. And I can attest to the fact that I was ignorant that such a thing existed. I mean, I knew as a fact that psychiatric patients and people that were imprisoned, falsely imprisoned, homeless people were being experimented on. I mean, we knew that. I mean, that's kind of hard to ignore. It was kind of hard to ignore that many people in the military were being targeted. And the fact that my father worked for IBM in the International Research Department, and told me by the time I was 12 years old all about geoengineering, and I didn't have a term for it at the time, and he didn't tell me it was geoengineering, but the things that he described to me describe exactly what we experience today. Was called geoengineering, and that was a long time ago. I was 12 a long time ago. A long time ago. More than 50 years ago. So yeah, so this is not anything that's new. So the second level of gang stalking program is that you're followed and surveilled overtly. At this level, gang stalkers keep their distance away from the targeted individual and away from belongings of the TI, but they follow and surveil on foot or by vehicles in an overt manner with colors of unity, body gestures, staring, street theater, mimicking, directed conversations, symbols, words, numbers, sounds, and noise campaigns, coughing, and clearing of the throat. And please, guys, don't be triggered when other targeted people are speaking for a long time on their podcasts or whatever, and they have to clear their throat and have to cough. These are natural bodily functions. And also the criminals, the powers that be, will force that upon someone. Number 3 is the gang stalk. They're confronted, and then there's the engagements. At this level, the gang stalkers enter your personal space of the targeted individual, and in some cases for insecure, intimate relationships and insincere friendships. The gang stalkers want to confront and engage the targeted person through conversation and interaction. The gang stalkers seek opportunity to insert themselves in the life of the targeted individual. Some of the gang stalkers may use the touchy-feely gestures of familiarity, such as a tap on the shoulder or a pat on the hand, but not in a violent way. Yes, I've experienced that. It's creepy. That's the only word I can use to describe it. It's a very creepy, you get a creepy feeling about it. Honey trapping is an investigative practice utilizing romantic and or sexual relationships for an interpersonal, political, or monetary purpose to the detriment of one party involved in this romantic or sexual affair. Well, that is not happening here. I'll tell you as a fact. It's not happening here. Investigators are also often employed by wives, husbands, and partners, usually when an illicit romantic affair is suspected of the target or subject of the investigation. Occasionally, the term may be used for the practice of creating an affair for the purpose of taking incriminating photos for use in blackmail. Oh, well, where have we heard that happening? Talk about, like, you know, those files that have been released, those files, the files that have been released. They use photos for use in blackmail. A honey trap is primarily used to collect evidence on the subject of the honey trap. Beware of the honey trap agent at level 3. There ain't no, that's not happening here. There just ain't nobody around here. No, 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 no. Let's see. So then there's the 4th level. Did I get to, was that the 3rd? Yeah, that was the 3rd level. The 4th level is criminal activity. At this level, the gangstalkers are hands-on and physical. Gangstalkers are dispatched to commit crimes against the person and property of the targeted individual, such as breaking and entering the home of the targeted to commit crimes of theft and property damage. Well, that, boys and girls, men and women, that has been happening here in Jackson County, Kentucky for 6.5 years, and it happens in Manalapan when I lived at 52 Sutton Drive, Manalapan, New Jersey, Monmouth County, 07726. At a home I lived in for 30 years as original owner. Yes, that was happening there. It wasn't happening the entire time, but they take advantage after a divorce. When they single you, when they've got you singled out alone, you're single, divorced, parents, that's when they go in for the kill. They want your house, they want your land, they want your stuff, and they want to take you down. And they employ the police department, who are known to stalk their own internal police officers too, at least in Manalapan. So then what they do is they, their targeted individuals gaslit, raped, beat, and poisoned. Then, of course, there's the electronic harassment with mainstream technology and devices like howling coyotes and wolves, mixed in with perpetrators in heat. After the gangstalkers physically enter the home of the targeted individual, a criminal activity may include, but is not limited to, the installation of cameras, listening devices, bugs. I'm going to say real bugs, like insects. They love their spiders, they love poop, they love pee, they love pus. These are free Masonic cult tactics. RFID microchip tracking devices, computer keylogger software. I've definitely got that. Malware, viruses, and Trojans. Home phone and cell phone is hacked. Yes, check mark, check mark. Computer hack, check mark. Manipulation of utilities, check mark. Home security system hack, check mark. At this level, targeted individuals are exposed to attacks and torture with advanced technology and devices which can be administered from a remote location. This is stage 5. The gangstalkers have the ability to grape, beat, and poison the targeted individuals from a remote location through the invisible power of the air with directed energy weapons 24/7, and they do this to your pets also. There's electromagnetic energy targeted to the brain. The inventor? Joel Stephen Goldberg. You can Google patent. US 201-603-75220. Joel Stephen Goldberg has the patent for electromagnetic energy to target the brain. Isn't that great? Wow, isn't that nice? Then there's the method to maintain peace through electromagnetic energy to target the brain. This is U.S. Patent 201-603-75220A1. The filing date was March 1, 2016. This is using the Belousov-Sabotinsky BZ reaction as a model of brain activity. An early prototype of this weapon was developed. In order to prevent other arms races using this technology should be assigned to the United Nations. Electromagnetic energy to target the brain. This is an abstract, a partial excerpt. 1 second. This is also U.S. Patent 201-603-75220A1. Quote, concentrated, extremely low frequency, ELF, electromagnetic waves can penetrate the cranium in the most conductive portion of the skull, the temporal lobe intersection, and produce effects of in the anterior temporal lobe that contains the amygdala. Remote stimulation of the temporal lobe may cause lethal or incapacitating seizures. They did this to my mother. Stimulation of the amygdala produces fear in a high percentage of humans, and in some instances, a respiratory depression. The amygdala. It's Latin from a Greek word, amygdalae, almond tonsil. It's one of two almond-shaped groups of the nuclei located deep in the deep and medially within the temporal lobes of the brain in complex vertebrates, including humans, shown in research to perform a primary role in processing memory, decision-making, emotional reactions. The amygdala is considered part of the limbic system. That's the primitive, also the primitive brain in the limbic system. So this is what they're targeting, subscribers, listeners. They want to affect how you process memory, your decision-making capabilities, and your emotional reactions. What does this sound like a setup for? It sounds like a setup for Alzheimer's and dementia, doesn't it? So now there is another, let's see, let's scroll down here. The fifth level is a voice to skull. The gang-stalking agents have the ability to transmit sounds such as voices into the head of targeted individual that others cannot hear, which mimic schizophrenia. And just for the record, guys, schizophrenia is not a mental illness. It's a defense mechanism to living in a chaotic environment or growing up with chaotic parents and the child, the young person, trying to make sense of what's going on in their lives. So also to be diagnosed as schizophrenic, you're not going to be 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, or 80. Okay. Targeted individual calls this ability voice to skull. Gang stalkers can clone voices, like wolves and coyotes, to sound like people that you know who are either alive or dead, or again, coyotes and wolves in heat. They target your five senses and respective sensory organs inherent among Homo sapiens. After the brain of the TI is hacked, the gang stalkers can access the physical body of the TI to induce sensations such as pain and various illnesses. They think they're gods and goddesses. They're criminals. No one should have the right to do this to another person. They don't even do this to prisoners. Even prisoners in prison have rights. The gang stalkers can electronically grape, electronically induce orgasms, electronically make a person impotent. Yes, men and women, they can do this to you. Their agents have the ability to read the mind of the targeted person. The technology used enables the targeted individual to hear his or her own thoughts in a type of speaker mode. The gang stalkers or organized harassment team, the Fusion Center operative team, the Infraguard team, they can demonstrate their ability to mind read by repeating back the unspoken thoughts of the targeted individual to the targeted individual. This is a type of synthetic telepathy. Targeted individuals, unfortunately, they can't hide anything. You can't even have your own thoughts. And this is actually intellectual property theft, because your thoughts are your own. They should not be listened in by anybody else. Nobody else should have access to your inner landscape. The 6th level of the gang-stalking program is death. It appears to be used to break the targeted individual down to the point of suicide, like they did to Michaela Raines, allegedly. And I actually don't believe that she took her own life. I think that something else happened, because it happened on the solstice, which was a ritualistic day of sacrifice. And who better to sacrifice than one of the purest souls on the planet, Michaela Raines? To get these highly functional targets to become dysfunctional, they need to break the target down to the point of suicide. It's in line with reverse engineering, whereby the purpose is to, with premeditated malice, and it's all premeditated, planned, plotted, orchestrated. It's all planned. It's all premeditated. To break down every aspect of target's life, in particular to break down their cognitive abilities in processing, thinking outside of the box, and to give up on questioning those who dare to target them to begin with. Well, I don't know, guys. I don't know about you. I grew up in a family thinking out of the box. So, like, it's inherent in my nature. So it's probably going to take them a little bit longer to do that. And I'll be gone from here. I got to get out of this place. Anybody wants to buy my property, give a shout out. Email me at alternativehomesteading@gmail.com. Thus, the majority of what is deployed is in the line with survival, evasion, resistance, escape. SERE, prisoner of war training, which generally elite active military are sent in order to survive should they become captured prisoner of war. But most of all, to see how long it takes to literally break their human prisoners by using a myriad of psychologically traumatizing, terrorizing, and harassing methodologies. And they killed another one of my cats last week. I haven't discussed it yet. As such, the target will be bombarded 24/7 psychotraumatology. I haven't heard that word before. Psychotraumatology, which examines factors that enhance psychological resilience in the face of traumatic experiences. And we see how they're non-consenting human guinea pigs, also known as targeted individuals, can rise above and survive through the torture and terrorism being inflicted upon and against them. The more resilient and capable the target is at survival, the more aggressive, violent, and terrorizing and traumatic these organized terrorists will inflict in their terrorist crusade to destroy the targeted person. And proof of it exists. What are microwave directed energy weapons? How do they work and how are they used? Well, I'm going to end reading here and show you a video on the Michael Parsons YouTube channel. Targeted individuals are under attack. You must watch.
System weapon that may have the ability to weaken, intimidate, or kill an enemy over time and without leaving evidence. The 2012 intelligence information indicated that this weapon is designed to bathe a target's living quarters in microwaves, causing numerous physical effects, including a damaged nervous system. End quote.
Okay, I beg to differ that it does not leave effects, because I've got marks all over my legs where they target you. If they're targeting you in the same place over time, you will see red marks on your bodies. You'll see circular patterns. Some of them look like tasers. Looks like taser marks, actually. And they very well could be. Let's continue.
Quote. Today's hearing can only present a sliver of relevant information. The overwhelming majority of evidence concerning AHIs is hidden behind classified walls. Having had authorized access to classified information on this topic, but without revealing that information, it is my view that the executive branch, particularly at the behest of and manipulation by officials within CIA, is not truthfully reporting what it knows.
T.I. Slowkill here. Let's talk about for a second what we just heard him admit. That was the Senate Commission hearing back in 2024.
Okay, this gentleman speaking, this is Michael Parsons, and he's showing us a series of clips, and he's narrating what's happening here.
And this is a hearing that was held in Washington, D.C. And if you heard that, he just admitted that, in his opinion, this is being covered up by the officials inside of the CIA and is being hidden in CIA classified documents.
Now, I have to tell you, it wasn't actually until recently. Again, I'm one of those dumbass targeted individuals, right? I had no idea that the CIA was actually involved in what was happening to us until I read something on Zachos Breedlove Ewing's YouTube channel. He was targeted. He fled to Canada. He was targeted there, came back here, and then they literally deleted him while he's like sitting on a park bench. That's the first time I heard that the criminals in the air were involved. And that's what I call them, the criminals in the air. You know, those criminals in the air.
He also admits that this is a covert military weapon system that leaves no proof left behind, that can be used to literally blanket a person's home, a target's home, in radiation.
It's actually, you can feel it. I'll be out on my property because I have a lot of land. So they're not targeting me in all parts of my land. They probably can, but they don't. So I'll go back in the woods to like pick up all the bitchcraft and stuff, and I feel perfectly fine back there. As soon as I walk through my front door, I feel it. I feel it around my body. It's like they force me to urinate when I've had no desire to do so the whole time I'm out. But as soon as I walk through my front door, it's like it hits me with a wave. It's like a tidal wave.
He admitted it.
Investigating why law enforcement and other homeland agencies have not been permitted to pursue AHI leads concerning criminal attacks on American personnel, and instead CIA analysts who do not possess the same skill sets or authorities have been allowed to control the investigation.
The more bigger issue here of what we're hearing is the fact that the people in Washington, D.C. are only willing to acknowledge that their own people have been affected by directed energy. They do not acknowledge the fact that targeted individuals are being affected and have been, talking about this and being attacked with these weapons for quite some time.
Now, also, I want to mention, I remember our current president mentioning that he was targeted. I mean, we know that he is, but obviously he has enough money to prevent like the home break-ins and stuff like that, and maybe not getting hit with directed energy weapons. But so what baffles the mind is if he's aware that he was targeted, he has to understand that he's not the only person. And now we have the Charlie Kirk thing, and so many of these young people whose brains are being taken over that go and delete their parents. This is not normal. This should not be happening. And how many of them have reported that they hear voices? Like James Holmes, Aaron Alexis, Myron May.
And another thing, these boys up in Washington, they want to identify this as a anonymous health issue, knowing that it's a directed energy attack, and yet they still want to call it an anonymous health issue. It's a straight up assault on an individual, and they know it. They admit it as a weapon system, but yet they call it a anonymous health issue. Come on, give me a break. I'm telling you, I'm a real targeted individual, and these people have been targeting me my whole life. And since 2014, I've been severely assaulted with directed energy, to the point that I'm probably going to die from this in the end. These boys in Washington, they're just corruption all the way. I don't even know really why they do these Senate commission hearings, knowing they're not going to do anything for us or about it,
And it really is disturbing because they do have these hearings. They do admit to what's happening, but yet even via these hearings that are made public, nothing is done. What are they doing to intercept this technology? It should not be used on U.S. soil.
Attacks in Havana, Cuba. I now represent more than 24 federal AHI victims, as well as numerous lawful whistleblowers from within CIA, DIA, ODNI, NSA, Departments of State and Commerce, USAID, and the FBI. The victims are not just selfless public servants, but their spouses, children, including infants, and even pets. These criminal attacks have primarily taken place overseas on multiple continents, but have also occurred on our homeland. That said, there's a wealth of publicly available information concerning the history of directed energy, and particularly its scientific, intelligence, and military applications. I provide an overview in my written testimony. Given the many years our government has been experimenting with developing directed energy weapons.
And also, Dr. James Giordano, we all know who he is, military doctor there. He has created so many educational videos. He's been interviewed. All you have to do is look up his name, and he will tell you everything about how the brain is being targeted, how the brain is being investigated, how the brain is under attack. The patents are there. The information is there. It is a covert, secret genocide. The weapon allows them to pulse radiation at the targeted individual. And it is a slow kill process for plausible deniability. And also, though, what ends up happening is a lot of targeted people are denied, or their families are denied, a full autopsy. They'll do a superficial one, and then some of the results are falsified, like targeted individual Helena Chorba, who lived in Pennsylvania, civil engineer. She was talking on the phone, walks to her front door, collapses, dies. Her family had been wanted to have a memorial service for her, you know, regular funeral service and whatever. The autopsy guy says that the forensics person, I forget what they're exactly called, said that for some reason they could not embalm her, so that she could not be laid out. So they were forced to cremate her. And that's what happens to a lot of targeted people. Because once you're cremated, they can't check you out in the future. You know, they can't exhume you. Is that the word? They can't exhume you to be re-examined in the future when additional technologies become available. And the statute of limitations. Well, there is no statute of limitations on torture anyway. In case any statute of limitations have expired by that time. They can't exhume the body. You're already cremated. So keep that in mind. And I believe that every targeted individual at some point, you need to have your skull examined. There's the costly processes. But I'll tell you that when I moved here, right now I have grooves in my skull when I rub my fingers through my hair and feel my skull. There are indentations everywhere. I was not born that way. I wasn't like that in New Jersey. But here in Jackson County, Kentucky, my skull has changed. My physical body has changed. My skin texture has changed. These criminals cut, slice. They spread urine and feces everywhere. This is demonic, satanic, Luciferian, and the Freemasons are absolutely involved here. Oh, and I just want to tell you one more thing. This is really interesting. I'm going to show you. I have to show you that here in my town, the magistrate, you know, the one who's ordered the road crew to destroy my property, well, he is, I guess he gets elected in. So this is for the magistrate, District 1. We have a new person who's running. His name is Keith Sandlin, a new person running. I think I know who he is. I think he owns a store in town. I'm not sure. But he sent around a memo in with all the local newspaper. And he says we need to move all county purchases back to a fiscal court approved purchase order system. This should remove all wasteful expenditures. I hate wasteful spending in our tax dollars. We need to reduce elected officials' salaries to the state minimum, starting with my own, if elected. Magistrate pay should be $6,000 annually, plus $1,200 annually for gas and mileage. Not the current salary of $33,000, plus $2,400 for expenses. These are Masonic numbers, guys. This magistrate, we all know who he is, right? We all know who pays his salary, right? He should be paid $6,000. Oh, there's that 6 number. He should be paid $6,000, but instead, he's getting $33,000 plus 24, the death number. $2,400 for expenses. That's a lot of money for somebody who can't balance a checkbook. Just saying. It's right here. So, not that I'm going to be voting this year. I will not be voting anymore in Kentucky. But if I were voting, I would definitely vote for Keith Sandlin. He wants to bring fiscal responsibility back to the fiscal court. If you want change, then the time is now. He says, I'm not a politician. I'm not part of the clique. Ha ha ha. Nor do I want to be. I'm blunt, straightforward, and honest. I don't sugarcoat anything, and I'm not a yes man, never have been, and I'm willing to make the hard decisions that are going to have to be made for the greater good of this county, and I'm not afraid to say word no. Well, thank you so much, Keith. I so appreciate your exposing the Freemasonic cult here in Jackson County, Kentucky. So on that note, I'm going to sign off. I hope everybody's doing well. Leave a comment down below, and we'll talk to you guys soon.